Hello and welcome to the Wrestle News 365 YouTube channel here on a very rainy Wednesday here in the UK. I don't know what it's like where you're listening to this from, but it's Wednesday, so that means one thing: it's AEW, it's NXT, and today we're going to talk a little bit about AEW, particularly who could be coming into AEW, who could be coming into All Elite Wrestling. Specifically, we're going to talk about Brodie Lee, the former Luke Harper. Now, there's been lots of speculation about where Brodie Lee will end up ever since he was released from his WWE contract, and there's been lots of reports recently that he could be headed to AEW, or that him appearing in AEW is nothing short of a formality at this point. Now, let's do a bit of a background here. Brodie Lee, Luke Harper, as he was known in WWE, was released from his WWE contract on December 8th, 2019. Now, he had actually said at this, I believe, like around, March time of 2019, or around that period of time, that he had asked for his release for WWE. He wasn't being used on TV, and he felt that his time was up in WWE. He wanted to leave, spread his creative wings, if you will, and wanted to move on. But the problem is that he had a lot of time left on his contract, and he also had some time added onto his contract because he had been previously out with, I believe, a hand injury or a wrist injury, or it wasn't necessarily an injury. I think Eric Rowan got. I think he tore his bicep around, was it SummerSlam 2018, something like that, and he was off of TV. He was, and they were a tag team, him and Luke Harper, as the Bludgeon Brothers. During that time, because his partner was off of TV, I think he decided to have wrist surgery, hand surgery, and then that time was added on to Luke Harper's contract. Hence why he couldn't, his contract was released so late. And WWE aren't really in the process now of releasing their superstars because they can jump to AEW. They're more in the process of waiting for their contract to expire. So regardless of if not he asked for his release, he had to wait for it. And now, even though he got released on December 8th, 2019, he had a no-compete clause, which actually took him up to March, which would have been his original contract expiration date anyway. So he was out of the company, but he still couldn't do anything. But now he is free to debut on any TV professional wrestling show that he wants in March 2020, alongside Matt Hardy. So he could be on AEW Dynamite tonight if he wanted, that being Brodie Lee. He recently, I believe while he was still under contract with WWE, he actually filed the trademark of Brodie Lee. So he owns that name. So he obviously had used it before on the independent scene before he got to WWE, but he owns the name Brodie Lee. So if he appears in AEW, his name is going to be Brodie Lee. And the hints that he could appear for AEW have kind of been all over the place, really. You don't hear much from him on social media, apart from his daily tweet of, it's whatever day it is today. So today will be, it's Wednesday, you know what that means, or something like that. So we don't really hear much from Brodie Lee himself talking, apart from when he released that statement that he'd asked for his release from the WWE. But we have seen him appear on a Sammy Guevara vlog, on Sammy Guevara's YouTube channel, whilst Sammy Guevara was at an ice hockey game, I believe last year or at the start of this year. So have they talked to AEW during that time? I don't know. But it kind of stirred up social media at that point, and again, kind of give this subtle hint that, hey, Brodie Lee's probably going to be on his way to AEW. There has been quite a bit of speculation as well that he could be the Exalted One for the Dark Order. I still think that spot's going to be Matt Hardy, and I don't think that changes at all. But Brodie Lee being the Exalted One is certainly a route that they could go down. Obviously, in WWE, he was always the follower of a cult, and when he was a member of the Wyatt family under Bray Wyatt's tutelage. But he could tell this story without specifically saying WWE and Bray Wyatt and all of that stuff, that he was always a follower of a cult, but now he's the leader of one. And I think his character, the Luke Harper, Brodie Lee character, would certainly fit into this sort of cult faction, or this cult faction that is the Dark Order, because let's be honest, that's what his character was before. His character fit into a cult before, so he would certainly fit that faction probably better than Matt Hardy, to be honest. The broken Matt Hardy character, whilst it could be seen as a leader of a cult, I think the better fit there would be Brodie Lee. But But, and it's a heavy but, I don't think Brodie Lee should be the exalted one, and I don't think he is the exalted one. I think Brodie Lee, at this point in his career, should be a single star. He should have been a single star in WWE. He's a tremendous athlete, a tremendous performer. The stuff he can do in the ring, not a lot of big guys can do. So I think this AEW run could certainly be a standout or a breakout moment in his career, and really a chance for him to show what he's really capable of, and more importantly, show that he can draw. Because obviously WWE, or specifically Vince McMahon, didn't think that he could draw. We heard those reports and rumours that Vince McMahon just didn't know what to do with Luke Harper, and he wanted Luke Harper to do a southern accent, and Luke Harper was like, well, I can't do a southern accent. Why can't I just be Luke Harper? And Vince McMahon wasn't happy with that. Now, he did return briefly, didn't he, in 2019, teaming up once again with Rowan, but once that storyline faded away pretty quickly, he only did a couple of shots, I think, Luke Harper. He appeared at Clash of the Champions, Hell in a Cell, and I think he appeared, his last appearance was at Crown Jewel last year. And then he disappeared from TV and was shortly released thereafter. And he was just never given the opportunity to be a big single star in WWE. I felt, and when I was doing some notes for this and doing my research on this, there was a period of time in 2017 where, for me, he could have been involved in the WWE Championship picture. During that whole Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt feud, where in 2016 Randy Orton actually became affiliated with the Wyatt family, he at one point was the tag team champion with Bray Wyatt, and you had Luke Harper still associated with Bray Wyatt at that point. When Randy Orton actually forced Luke Harper out of this relationship with Bray Wyatt, Luke Harper for a period of time was a babyface, and whilst they were telling the story of Bray Wyatt versus Randy Orton for WrestleMania for the WWE Championship, there easily could have been a case of turning that into a triple threat match, because Luke Harper was getting over. I don't care what people say, Luke Harper was getting over, and I don't think he would have been out of place in that championship picture. Now, of course, that wasn't the story WWE were trying to tell. Luke Harper had a couple of matches, I think, with Randy Orton, and then once again disappeared pretty soon from WWE TV until he was repackaged with Eric Rowan as the Bludgeon Brothers. So, for me, the evidence is there that Luke Harper can draw as a big-time player in the main event. And like I said, for me, he was just never given that opportunity in the WWE. Perhaps if he goes to AEW, he will be used in the position that he should be used. Because let's be honest, Luke Harper's had, Brodie Lee, whatever you want to call him, has had tremendous matches in WWE. The ones that come to mind, of course, are the matches with the Wyatt family and the Shield. Luke Harper was tremendous in those matches. And more as a singles run, when he, in 2015, when he was the Intercontinental Champion, he had a tremendous ladder match with Dolph Ziggler at TLC. And I think, again, that's just evidence that not only can Luke Harper draw as a singles talent, but he can put on great matches and he can get the crowds invested in his matches. So I think it would be a big get for AEW if he does appear for them. But let's not rule out some other companies here. Now, whilst I think it's very, very, very likely he goes to All Elite Wrestling, let's not rule out New Japan here. Brodie Lee, obviously, the name Brodie makes you think of Bruiser Brody, and he certainly has that look about him, a Bruiser Brody-like look to him, a sort of crazed foreigner. That could draw unbelievably in New Japan. Why? Because it's done so historically. Look at how well Bruiser Brody did in Japan, how much he drew and how much he made in New Japan. So even if he signs Brodie Lee for All Elite Wrestling, I would assume he would have the same clause in his contract, the likes of Jon Moxley, Chris Jericho, Cody, the Bucks, Kenny Omega, in that he can do shots for New Japan if he would like. I think he will, because I think he'll draw tremendously over there. I'd love to see him work the likes of Okada, Naito, Suzuki. Can you imagine that match? So I think, and I think he would do really well in Japan. So I wouldn't rule out him appearing for New Japan Pro Wrestling as well. And it also made me think that if Brodie Lee does go to AEW, even though AEW is often considered, the high spot style, the smaller guys are working, doing high tempo matches, let's not be confused here. There are currently quite a few big guys in AEW. You've got the type of Lance Archer, who's just signed for AEW, who's making his debut tonight. You've got Luchasaurus, who's ginormous. You've got Wardlow, who is the heavy for MJF. It's rumoured that Brian Cage is going to be going to AEW. You've got the likes of Jake Hager as well, who's a big guy. So there's a core of real big guys that are in AEW, and Brodie Lee would fit into that tremendously. So I think it's a bit naive now to call the AEW roster just small high spot guys, because there are a lot of big guys that are well over 6 foot, close to that 300-pound mark, they can work as well. So, and let's be honest, whilst we do love the high spot and we do like watching the small guys, it's always been a draw to see two big guys go at it, especially when two big guys can work. The crowd always rumbles when they see two big guys face off, and they're always interested to see it. So when you've got that core group of big guys now on the AEW roster, there's this diversity there that they didn't have before. So that also factors in whilst why is Brodie Lee is such a big get for AEW if he does go there and he does sign. So tonight, will Brodie Lee appear? Well, it is the first AEW Dynamite of March tonight. Now, I believe if we're looking at Matt Hardy's contract here as well, that he's free to appear anywhere now that his contract expired in March. I would assume that Brodie Lee's non-compete clause is up now at the same time as Matt Hardy's, if their contracts were signed roughly at the same time. So I could see Brodie Lee appearing tonight. It's not a formality, of course. They might save it for something else. They might save it for later on this month when they have their Blood and Guts edition of Dynamite in New Jersey. They might not rush it. But it's certainly possible that Brodie Lee could appear tonight. And that raises the next question then of who would he feud with? Who would Brodie Lee feud with? A name that comes to mind initially would be Darby Allin. I think that would be a tremendous, tremendous match to see and a tremendous feud to see. Maybe Darby's still going to be in this feud with Sammy Guevara, but it feels like that was a nice bow was put on that with the story they were trying to tell at Revolution. Darby Allin, of course, got his redemption, didn't fully injure Sammy Guevara back, but it kind of feels like they might have a rematch on Dynamite or something like that coming up soon, but that would be the end of that feud. So Darby Allin versus Brodie Lee is a match I'd really like to see. I think that'd be really interesting. A real clash of styles. I think it would just be interesting. I think Luke Harper works really well with small guys. Obviously, Luke Harper as well isn't exactly the size he used to be. He lost quite a considerable amount of weight in his last couple of years there in WWE. When he first came in, he was close to 300 pounds, but I think now he's probably about 250, 240, which is not to say he's small by any means, but he's leaned up considerably. Other people I'd like to see him face off against, like I said, the big guys. It'd be great to see him face a Lance Archer. I'm not sure if they would do that feud straight away. But a Luchasaurus, that could be an interesting feud. And potentially Brian Cage if he does sign with AEW also. Will he be a heel or a babyface in AEW, Brodie Lee? I would say he's probably likely to be a heel. We've seen him briefly been a babyface in WWE, like I said, in that 2017 feud or with the Wyatt family or the new Wyatt family, but his best work is as a heel. He's always really been a heel. Of course, when he shows up, he'll get cheered because crowds love surprises, crowd loves debuts. But I think he'll be working as a heel, and like I said, I think that's just the best role for him. His best work's been as a heel. I don't see him being this. The only way he could be a babyface would be as if he's this just completely destructive, silent babyface. But I don't think he'll want to do that. I think he'll want to evolve. I think he'll want to do something different. Traditionally, when we see WWE guys get released from their contract and go somewhere else, they don't portray the same character. They like to reinvent themselves. They like to do something different. And like I said earlier, spread their creative wings. So whilst I do think Brodie Lee would be a heel in AEW and a tremendous heel for them, I don't think we'll see the exact same Luke Harper gimmick. I think we'll see something different. And I think that's important for his success in AEW and his success in his post-WWE career. Another thing I'll throw out there as well, that whilst I said I would like to see him face the likes of Darby Allin, Brodie Lee, but why not be an opponent for Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship? How great would that be to come in at the highest level and cement himself as a championship contender to the likes of Jon Moxley? Now, the only reason I would be hesitant for that is one, do you really want to have all these former WWE guys in your main event scene? You're walking the very thin WCW and TNA line there, aren't you? Whereby it appears that there's only people that are going to win the championship or challenge for the championship or are in that main event scene used to work for WWE or have just been released from WWE. So you want to be careful there. And also, Jon Moxley isn't going to lose the World Championship anytime soon. He's just won it. I don't think he's going to have a short reign. I think he'll have it at least, 6 months maybe? Maybe longer than that, 9 months. So if he were to face Jon Moxley, it would be likely that Brodie Lee would lose. And especially when you keep track of the records like AEW does, do you really want to have those losses on your record that early into your run at AEW? He should probably be built up and, like I said, feud with some underneath guys first, get those wins, get that record high, and then eventually he can face a Jon Moxley for the World Championship later on. So whilst I would like to see him face Jon Moxley, the new version of Jon Moxley, obviously we've seen him face Dean Ambrose when he was the member of the Shield, and we've seen when Brodie Lee was a member of the Wyatt family, but it's different now. When they're a different character, it's just a different story. I felt the same this past Saturday at Revolution when people were saying, well, it's just a WWE main event. It's Dean Ambrose versus Chris Jericho and all that sort of stuff. You go, yeah, but it's different. They're different characters. They might as well be different people at this point. Jon Moxley's a different person to Dean Ambrose. This Chris Jericho ain't the Chris Jericho that was in WWE with a light jacket. It's a completely different scenario. It's a different setting. It's a different story. And that would be the same here with Brodie Lee. He's going to be a different guy. He's not going to be Luke Harper. It's a different setting. There's different parameters here. There's different ways they can do their creative storylines. There's different stories that they can tell. So I kind of wash off those people that say, it's just WWE version 2, because it's not. It's not. You line up AEW and WWE, they're different shows. They are different shows, they're different characters, and I have no problem with that at all. Like I said, my only concern would be, does Brodie Lee jump into a World Championship scene straight away? Probably not. I would say to build him up first. But what do you think? Of course, it's not just about my opinion. It's all about your opinion on this channel. Do you think that Brodie Lee is going to be going to AEW? Is it a formality or is it not a formality just yet? Will he appear somewhere else? In NWA, Impact Wrestling, MLW, New Japan? Where is he going to appear next? Let me know in the comment section below. Who would you like to see him face if he does go to AEW? I've thrown some names out there, but there might be some names you want to see. Don't forget, bottom right hand corner of your screen, you can subscribe to the channel. We're going to try and make our way to 100. We're up to 70 now, so 30 subscribers off of 100. And then we might do something special once we get to that 100 number. Don't forget to like and like and share this video as well. And thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you've come across this video today. I really appreciate it, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.